how can you tell if somebody is just projecting their issues on you, or if we are projecting our issues on somebody else? I will tell you the answer to the second half of that first. I believe we are always projecting our issues onto other people, because when it's not about us, it's very. Thank you. What would you like to be called, DeVille Benny? When something really bothers us to the point where this would be an issue, of projection and who's projecting on whom, it's almost always we are. Benny. Thank you, Benny. What requires a lot of self-knowledge? I don't understand. Oh, that was too Benny. Okay. I believe that when any issues that are real issues with us, by nature of them being issues with us, it's something that we are projecting onto somebody else. Because if it is their issue, it would not be bothering us. Therefore, I try in my life a lot, especially more these days, when I find myself getting really angry with other people because of what I think they are doing or their behavior, even if it's something that they're doing, like if they're beating my ass, you know what I mean? Which has happened. I have to recognize that is, no matter what you're doing, I'm in charge of every relationship in my life. This is my relationship and my lesson, and you are my lesson. And therefore, if something is happening here, any percent of it that I ascribe to you is a percent of it that I am now disempowering myself of. Therefore, I have to recognize that whatever I see is the issue. Principle number 7 in the 9 principles, I use the 9 principles to go through every one of my big challenges in my life. And principle number 7 is the only thing that could possibly be missing from this relationship is what I'm not giving to this relationship. That's it. There is no other option. So if it appears as though somebody else is doing something or it's their issues, I have to step back and be like, all right, regardless of what their behavior is, what is it bringing up in me that is causing this to be a moment in time where I'm stopping and reflecting and recognizing it rather than just going through it? And it's whatever they're bringing up in me, I have to recognize, and that therefore is my issue. Sometimes it takes somebody to be behaving in a way that causes me pain for me to recognize what my issue is. Now, my issue, by the way, like when I figure out what it is that I'm not giving, it sometimes takes a while to get there, because I might believe that what's missing from this relationship is something totally other than what is really missing, that I should be infusing, that would then heal and transform this relationship. So it's not always apparent. It usually comes down to what I need to do is be more loving. And it's not always easy to figure out what that means. I need to be more loving to you, to me. And sometimes what that means is, I'm going to show you what somebody who loves himself looks like, and I'm going to go over there now, and you're not coming with me, ever. So that's it. Now, if this issue is with somebody, if somebody else is projecting crap on me, and I have to tell you, hey, don't project your issues on me. That's a very tricky thing to start into, because when we do that, you may know, if you've been in the situation, when somebody starts using that type of language, don't project your issues on me, that other person, or if it is me and I'm not at my best, is going to start on a mission to prove, no, this is your issue. And so they're going to try to prove that to me, because we don't want to take a good look at them in the mirror. That's the most difficult part of relationship with a big R. Like if I'm in any relationship, that's the worst part, is what you or everyone else in the world or myself or my maker is making me do. Take a good look at myself. I don't want to do that. And so when we corner people and try to make them do that, they're going to become like a cornered rat, and do anything that they can to project that back on us. So I do not recommend pointing it out to people when they are projecting their issues on us, unless what I found success in is, I'm thinking of somebody recently where that happened, where I thought, as all of these issues were being projected onto me, I thought, really? You can't see what you're doing? Like, really? Gosh, it's so obvious. It's like when I owe people money. It's so easy to forget that. It's like I forget it all the time. I don't ever forget when other people owe me money. And it's very easy for me to project my issues onto other people and not know what I'm doing. And it's interesting to watch when people do the same thing to me, and project everything onto me. And I am stunned going, how can you do that? So the first step, I believe, when somebody does that to us is to totally forgive them for suffering from the same affliction that I'm suffering from. And just remember, okay, they're in a state where it would be an impossibility for us to explain to them in a satisfactory way what they're doing. It's impossible. Just like a lot of times when we're talking to our kids, for example, and they say things like, I hate you. We have to learn this is not the time to talk to you or to work through this issue because you are not ready. You will not hear what I have to say, and all it's going to do is make matters worse for you and for me. So I'm going to wait. Like we just talked about in today's video, timing is a big deal. Knowing when to say it, to whom to say it, the tone, timing is crucial. So number one, when somebody's projecting these issues on me, forgive them for doing that, and we have to be very, very on our game. Then what I like to do is, when the time is right and the issue has blown over so that we can now talk again, I sat down with him, for example, and as we were talking, I involve a task, especially if it's a man. I always involve tasks. And so we were washing the dishes, and I said something like, hey, you know what? Some people have called me on this on YouTube, where when I have to say a message that's really difficult to people, I'll just say it like that. And it makes it so much easier. I'll say, you know what? Did you realize when you were saying all of that tonight that you were projecting all your issues on me? Instead of saying things like, by the way, I wanted to talk to you. Did you realize earlier tonight that you projected all of those issues on me? So there's always a different way to say things. And when you say it, giving it the hold on a second, this is important, or I wouldn't stop and think about it. When you give it the mood it deserves, we're working here together to work through these life issues. So it is actually lighthearted, and I'm going to treat it that way at the moment, So I would wait until the opportune moment to suggest to that person, hey, I don't know if you realized, but earlier today when we were talking about those things, what I have found is that when I have those types of issues that really bring up anger, like I saw you were dealing with earlier, and if there's anything I can ever do to help you, let me know. I've always tried to really stop and say, okay, this is not about the situation that it appears to be about. It's about something else. If it's bothering you that much, it's about what it's about. And I have always found great success in when I can stop and recognize how I can infuse that into that relationship, how I can give that. And it's really helped me. Now, I know that it's all my fault, but if you ever stop and think about how you could, provide that, like, for example, you wanted me to think about your needs more. Well, maybe if you stopped and thought, now, what am I doing where I'm being selfish, or how can I think about someone else's needs? How can I be more thoughtless and add to this relationship? What would that do? How would that change this relationship? I think if you did that, you'd find immediate results because you're totally in charge of that. And I sometimes, as you know, can't really get it to provide you what you need. So if you were to self-service, so to speak, that might serve you well, and you could find a lot more happiness. And it takes a lot less time than if you sit around waiting for me to fix it, as you probably know. So that's how I talk, and I'll say that, and it tends to work. But I know that I'm the master of giving the longest answers to the shortest questions. In summary, it's all my issue, and it is all your issue when you're the one who's upset. It's all your issue. That's the only way it can possibly be. Everything that you say to me is about you. How I react to it, how I internalize it, how I respond to it, that is all about me. I was telling my brother the other day, or somebody, I think my brother, how, like, if somebody said to us something like, your dad doesn't love you, we would be like, oh my gosh, do you know what your address is? We would want to help you if you're talking that crazy talk, because that's not a possibility. So what is it that people are bringing up where we would feel like we needed to defend against it, or argue with them, or prove to them that I shouldn't have to prove to you anything? Any iota of that that's coming up in me wanting me to prove something shows that something about this is going to be my issue as well. But it's not because of you, it's because of me. I don't know if that made any sense. I like thanks, Joe. If I choose to respond at all. Normally, Benny, Ms. Benny, I'm with you where now my brother is very passive aggressive. He's not at all. He's very straightforward with his communication, but I am more of the passive aggressive by nature type, where Ms. Benny was just saying, maybe I don't respond at all. Now, if you're like me, sometimes we who are more passive communicators by nature, because we're all either more passive by nature or more aggressive by nature, just like dogs, hey buddy, come here, join me. We're all one of those. And if you're more passive by nature, we tend to use our silence as a punishment, and not respond at all. So just make sure you're not doing that, one of those, and then you never, then you just cut them off. That is when I'm not at my best, that is what I tend to do. When I'm when I'm serving up the worst of Dan. Okay. So don't do that. It makes them uncomfortable. It does. When you don't respond, you mean it makes them uncomfortable? It sure does. You know what I think is so hard to do, but I think we all know, and the more we can remind one another of the right thing to do, the more often we will get it right. Even if I have 100 chances to get it right, and I get it right once a day, which is a lot, that's batting pretty well. If tomorrow, because we talked, and I get it right twice, that I'm so grateful for that. Twice out of 100. So one more time. And I think that the more we can remind each other that it always comes down to compassion and forgiveness. That is the gift I can give the world. That is the gift that heals the world. That is the unlimited source of power that is in me but not of me, that I can give somebody and don't expect any of it back at all. You know what I mean? And there will never be an end to the amount of forgiveness that I can supply, and it's always the answer to everything. So I would, instead of simply being silent to them, I would forgive when the symptom starts to reveal itself to me the most I can. And remember that the way you are dealing with your lessons is just different from the way I'm dealing with mine. But we're all kind of going through the exact same lesson, it seems. We just have different forms of the same affliction, and we deal with it in different ways. So I try to, when I deal with mean people, or people who try to project on me, I think it's Dad, Marty. Maybe you would. No, I'm not. Yes, Colton asked me to read question above. I sure will. My father did us a great service, both my brother and I, by really, I think, teaching us how people will laugh at you and people will ridicule you, and they will crucify you and judge you, and really, they'll really try to tear you down. People will. Not everybody, but there will be people who will do that. And he was such a good teacher of how to put up an invisible force field. And it's okay, if somebody tries to project their issues onto me. It's okay if somebody calls me a name. I mean, it's okay if somebody laughs at my brother. They've been doing it my whole life. I mean, it's just constantly being, ridiculed for because he's kind of, he wears pink sundresses types, So I've had to deal with people laughing at him my whole life, and I've learned how to deal with that. Hold on one second. Okay. So Colton, when did you get the next question, and would you mind reading my question above? Oh, yes. Hold on one second, Colton. Okay. It's a horrible situation. We have to prioritize the sick. Oh, geez. Hold on. Let's see what it is, Colton. I think I might have missed the beginning. Denying a test. Are you asking that? How to say to somebody, I can't deliver that, I can't give you that test because you don't qualify? Is that what you're asking? Boy. Okay. It's funny, Colton. Who helps me? My mom. My mom helps me. So I think I've got it, Colton, where you have to tell people. I just recently had to, it's basically like this. Recently, I had 3 doctors, all in the same shot, all in the same day. One of them had to tell us that my dad had no hope, that basically we needed to keep him comfortable and that there's nothing more she could do. So I remember being struck with her ability to say that, because I thought, you are so young, that must be so difficult for you. To tell people there's nothing more I can do but maybe help you find ways to keep him comfortable. So she said that. That was option number 1. And as soon as she said that, my mother, who didn't process what was going on until closer to the end, was like, well, what else can we do? And she kept asking the doctor what more she could do. And the doctor immediately was like, well, let me call the other doctor and see, maybe we could do this. And I thought when I was watching it, I was like, oh, you lost it, because right at the beginning, she did what I assume is the most difficult part of a doctor's job, telling people when they're still alive, I can't help you. I mean, that just must be horrible. So she immediately kind of backtracked and was like, okay, well, let me see if I can call the other doctor and we'll see what we can do. And her mother was like, okay, and was satisfied for the moment. And I thought, oh, you poor thing. You had it in your grasp for a minute, then you lost it. That was doctor number 1. Doctor number 2 never called us and never told us that my dad was dying until one doctor said to my mother as he was talking to her in the hallway, he said, didn't you get the email? My mom was like, what email? And he said, this one, where it says he's got about 3 days, and it was a day and a half ago, that was written. And they were really good with their timelines. I mean, right on the money. So that was doctor number 2, totally avoided it. And doctor number 3, I remember, because it must have been horrible for him. I always feel so bad for people when they're telling me about the people that I'm about to lose. And so this doctor was like, you need to make arrangements now, because unfortunately he has I would give him 2 days and there's nothing more we can do. And he was just bam, right out there he's obviously done that many times. And I remember being so grateful for it that he just said it. The reason I'm giving you that long story again is because even during those trying times when people have said to me things like, there's only so much we can do and I'm doing it all, I can't give you that. Yes, there's something out there for you that would be even better. Nope, you're not going to get it. My best friend, Olga, her sister has hepatitis C and she's now dying of it. And I shouldn't say that. I apologize, but she's not doing well with it. And they were told, I think 5 years ago or so, that she was going to die of this in about 7 or 8 years. And I'm like, there's a cure. And they said, no, there's not. And I'm like, there is a cure. Pamela Anderson had it. And she has come out and been the spokeswoman and said, everybody get, hepatitis C cured. But she couldn't get it because she did not have the money for it. And the people who produced it, it's the same pill that used to cost, I think, $3. Now it costs, $75,000. So the guy's in jail. But when he gets out, he's going to keep reaping the benefits of these pills. And Olga's sister's going to die. And so it was like that, I think, what you're talking about, is where they had to tell her, yeah, there is something that you could do, but you're not going to get it. So I believe that when you have to tell people that type of news, even if in the moment they forget, somewhere in us, we all know that doctor is not making that decision. It's like when I'm dealing with the airlines, I know that flight attendant, if she could or he could, they would wave a magic wand and get me on the next flight out of here. And they don't want to spend any time with me that they don't have to. And so I try to treat them with compassion. And then there are some of those people in those lines who are just so horrible to the flight attendants. I think you will find, doctor, if that is what you are, that if you are obviously a compassionate person. And if you say to people, could you give me the words how you might say that to people? For example, unfortunately, like I would start out with, as you may know, unfortunately, as you may know. Okay, here are the words that I would use if I'm in that position. I'm putting on my my medical customer service hat, which is not that unusual. We do a lot of medical customer service training. Okay, I would say something such as this. By the way, thank you for whatever you're doing. I would say, as you most probably, or excuse me, since you probably have to say this a lot, I would practice saying it so that it doesn't come out like it's coming out with me. Something such as I'm sure you know, I'm under extreme restrictions as to who I can and cannot provide those tests to, and I apologize for having to tell you that you do not qualify for it, so I cannot give it to you. Now, when I say that, I'm not saying to them, you don't need it. I'm not saying to them, you're not going to get it. You shouldn't take it. I'm saying the facts. You're probably aware of the extreme restrictions that we are all under right now. And unfortunately, I can't give that to you. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't go to the supply closet on the way out and get one. That doesn't mean anything other than what I just told you. So I would say it very matter-of-factly, very quickly, within one sentence, like, I apologize, but I'm sure you're aware of the extreme restrictions we're under, and unfortunately, I cannot provide you that test. Period. And so that doesn't mean I'm not giving you any more information. So then I would use the broken record. So if they were to ask, well, how would I ever know if I'm going to have it or not? I would say something, I would give one line of empathy statements and say something such as, I know this is really frustrating. However, unfortunately, because of the extreme restrictions that I'm under, I can't give you that test. I can't. And I would try to just reinforce that a little bit. I can't. You might find somebody who can. I don't know. I can't. And I'm not making a judgment, So I would keep it real quick, real short, very direct. And I think the thing that helps me the most when I have to deliver messages like that, as I'm sure you're aware of, body language. If I can, there's a connection that we have with the words coming out of our mouth and our physical posture. Just like, how if you walk around smiling all day, you will actually, studies show, be happier. And like with the Botox, if I can Botox my headaches away because, if I'm not making an angry face, I can Botox my moods away. If I'm not making an angry face, I'm not actually as angry. Those types of connections always work both ways. So if my body posture, if I was feeling good, would be more up straight, I would put myself in that position as best I can before delivering that message, because it will help me not feel so terrible about it. And I'm sorry that you have to deliver that message, because that would be terrible. But I think that in the end, every single person in the world understands what the message is that you have to deliver. So just deliver it very quickly, matter-of-factly, starting off with an empathy statement. I'm sorry, however, then remind them of what they're already aware of. I'm sure you're aware of the restrictions that we are all under, and I unfortunately can't give you that test. There you go. That's what I would say. Hold on one second. Did I? Like, perfectly, I've got some. Thank you, Colton. Oh God, I bet. Like that would be Isma. Who's Isma? I don't know. That would be. Can you tell me a little bit? Maybe you can't. But can you tell me a little bit about where you are and what you're doing, Colton? All right. By the way, I wish there was. I wish there was a way, if anybody can figure it out, tell Marty about it so he can do it. I'm trying to figure out how to have it so that people can actually talk to me a little bit, and I'm not, doing all of this through writing. Like, even if it's something simple, like putting up a Zoom computer next to the YouTube computer, I don't know. But the whole point of Marty and I starting these out was to be able to talk to people, and I'm not able to do that yet. Like, I don't want to know, or I don't want to tell you guys. I really want to know. It's past my bedtime. Good night, all. Cup of Joe. Thank you, Katie Ann. And I think we're all heading up to bed, so thank you very much, Cup of Joe. And it's funny how this time is causing so many changes. Like for a lot of people, like my brother, he's much more he's kept away from everybody, and that's not a good thing for him. And it's like new for him because he's not connecting with people the way he normally is. I am out of my comfort zone because I'm connecting with people more and more than I ever have. Even though it seems like a little one, for me, it's a big deal. So you work in Arizona through a private lab, and you offer the COVID test. However, we strictly regulate testing. Wow. So that's what I have read, is that you have to meet certain restrictions, even if, for example, oh God, they're doing it in the backyard. Even if somebody gosh, you really need to take the test, unless you can check off the boxes, you can't give them the test, right? Like there was thank you, Colton. Like there was so this guy that I saw on TV. You probably know of him. He was waiting for a liver transplant or something like from his brother, and they had everything ready. And then at the very last minute, because of the new restrictions, they had to postpone his surgery, and he didn't know if he was going to get it or not. And it was all because, because of everything that's going on. Your brother's surgery is now, you're about to die in the next 3 days. Your brother, who is your donor, who was prepping for surgery, between yesterday and today, is now considered elective surgery, even though it's, no one would elect that, but it's what it is, and we can't proceed with the operation now because of the restrictions. So I'm sure you're under something like that, correct? And the big moon is, tomorrow, let's do that. Let's do that tomorrow. Go out and look at the red moon. You guys, can you hear that? Hold on, this is gonna be the beginning of the what do you call it? Paranormal Activity channel. Those animals or whatever they are making that noise where they're going, psst, hey, listen, hold on. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Okay, cut and dry. Right. By the way, Colton, if you're like me, you hate to give those types of messages so much. Some people will be like, well, you just got to get used to it, got to suck it up. I don't know why. You're like, why do I have to learn to do that? Is this ever going to happen again? I hope not. And if it is, it's going to be still pretty crummy. If you find it helpful, what I've had to do when I've had to deliver crummy messages like that over and over to many people who seems as though, they didn't know about this when they all know. Oh, God, did you hear that? I would make little cards if you can, to put up at the front desk, for example, especially if you have a receptionist who finds this difficult to. Can you guys hear that? If you have a receptionist that's finds it difficult to deliver these messages, to make little cards so that they can just give them to that person and be like, you might not know about the restrictions that we're all under, and I'm sorry, but because of these restrictions here, you can take a look at this. I'm unable to provide that to you, but there's a number on here that you could call, and maybe if enough people call, I could provide it to you one day. Whatever, I don't know. But step number 1 is empathize. Step number 2 is to give what you can and can't do with no reaction. And step number 3, if you can, to provide them an alternative. Stop back in 6 weeks, call this number. And I have to go because I have to go see if these creatures are showing themselves. Let me see I'll show you the moon if anyone wants to see it. But I understand if you're ditching me right now. So while I'm out here, thanks, Colton, for sharing your story and doing your story. Okay, hold on. Oh, holy cow! Wow. Okay, hold on. This is the poltergeist tree. Whoops. This is the poltergeist tree that's outside my window. And hold on. There's the moon. Can you see that? Look at that. Now that's a moon, and it's blue. Blue moon. Wow. Oops, my microphone wasn't on, so you missed that lovely rendition. Thank you, Colton. Nighty night. Thank you, Ms. Benny. I'll watch out for the werewolves and the other things. Okay. Did you like that one, Anu? Okay. Okay. Let me see, Colton. Okay, I think we got it all. A supermoon. Thanks, guys. Okay, so tomorrow I'm going to try again to actually have an agenda and stick to it. One of these days, I'm going to get it. So thank you, everybody, for being with us. I'm painting my house tomorrow. If anyone wants to join me, I'm going to be putting a faux cement tile on the wall. It's going to be rockin' hot like the other ones have been. So I'm going to post that for a little bit as well if you'd like to join me. I have no idea when because I can't go out and buy the paint. I have to hope that they'll bring it. And I keep ordering, listen to this. I keep ordering painting supplies from Walmart. So typical, true to form, I mean, it's Mexican Walmart. Today they brought me 3 paint brushes, 3 tubes of caulk, paint, or excuse me, the painter's tape, you know, the masking tape, some glues, some other things, but they didn't have paint. I'm like, you do too have paint, you have paint. But they keep forgetting the paint or not being able to paint. So I have a whole bunch of brushes and everything else, but no paint. Hopefully tomorrow I'll be able to get some paint. And by the way, hey guys, what do you think about this? If anybody's still with me. They can sell these Katrinas online for a lot of money. If anybody still has any money in the world, do you think I could sell that? I have 2. There she is up there, the bird lady. Feed the birds, topping the bag. Okay, goodbye guys.